Hi, this is Phil Shapiro in Tacoma Park, Maryland. I've been reading a really neat book, KenKen, Tried and True Tips and Techniques for Beginners by Ellie Bruce and Joshua Rosen. So the KenKen logic puzzles were invented in Japan by a very creative and smart math teacher, Tetsuya Miyamoto. And they have now become a worldwide phenomenon. It's a very favorite leisure activity. It's printed in the New York Times since 2009 and in more than 100 other newspapers. And some schools, some forward-thinking schools, are beginning to introduce these to students, even in elementary school. Because once you get an appetite for solving puzzles, then mathematics becomes just a whole different kind of thing. It's hard to have a math phobia if you love puzzles, right? So a few years ago, back in 2012, I wrote this article for PC World about this logic puzzle competition at KenKen at the public library in Chappaqua, New York, where they had lots of cheering and people were driving to this contest, this annual contest from Connecticut and New Jersey. And what I loved best was it was a high school student, a young woman who kept winning year after year. So that was a neat part of the story. So that was back in 2012, and now they continue to have this international tournament, but it's grown too big for that library, so they now have it at a different venue in New York City, and it's now an international contest, so people flying in from lots of other countries, which is really exciting. So you can look up this article if you're interested. KenKen Logic Puzzles and PC World. Just put that into your web search. And here's the website of the company that publishes this book and lots of other KenKen books, and the company that runs the annual tournament. It's also located in Chappaqua, New York these days, and their website is well worth visiting. I recommend you come and visit their website. So, let me minimize this. So here's KenKen Tried and True Tips and Techniques. Let me tell you about this book and why I love it. So this book was written by a high school student, Ellie Bruce, who's a junior right now, going to be a senior, and Josh Rosen. He's an award-winning elementary math and science teacher in Westchester County, New York, north of New York City. So this is a very gentle beginner's guide, kind of like an on-ramp, I would say. And I loved reading it because it's really skinny. It's 63 pages. It's very affordable, less than $10, I believe. And it's well written. I talked with the authors, and they have chosen the puzzles carefully to illustrate how you can develop skill and strategy at solving these puzzles. And then they give you some practice puzzles. So this is the back of the book. And there's also a KenKen app that you can get for iOS, Android, or Kindle in the App Store, the Google Play Store, or the Amazon App Store. So you can see that it is becoming kind of a phenomenon. You might not have heard of it yet, but now you've heard of it today. So whoopsie. There we are. So here's the second. So here's the introduction of the book, and I'm going to read just a little bit of it. It is the philosophy that guided Tetsuya Miyamoto, a Japanese mathematics teacher, in 2004 to create the challenging and addicting puzzle known to the world as KenKen. It's the art of teaching without teaching. One of the beauties of KenKen is that it is surprisingly simple to learn the basic rules, yet increasingly complex and satisfying to develop solving strategies. Each puzzle represents an array of squares ranging from 3 by 3 to 9 by 9. The objective is to reach each designated target value within the array without repeating any numbers. While the rules are simple, the thinking is deep and multidimensional. So this is really neat. This volume, I'm reading from the second paragraph, is designed to kindle an enjoyment and interest in solving KenKen puzzles through carefully chosen examples. Great. And then it says, we have designed this primer in such a way that the solver will have the opportunity to reflect on puzzles already solved and then solve similar puzzles. We hope that you enjoy this book. Great. And then here are the rules. In the beginning of the book, it tells you the rules and explains the rules. I like the freebies. When you're starting a puzzle, the first move is usually a very easy move called a freebie. And I've become very good at doing the freebies. And then they start off with just simple addition. So these puzzles, they start off with 3x3 puzzles in simple addition. And that happens to be one of my strengths, is simple addition. So I was really appreciative that that's how the book starts, with one of my own strengths, simple addition. And then there are practice puzzles that you can do in this book. And this is another book. The practice puzzles has answers in the back. Answers in the back. And that's another one of my strengths. So another one of my strengths is I'm very good at looking at the answers in the back of a book. So I was pleased to see that I could exercise that skill over here. These are the other books. So the KenKen company publishes a bunch of books. So this is their newest book, but they've been publishing books for years. KenKen 4x4 puzzles only, 200 easy logic puzzles that make you smarter. KenKen for experts only, 100 challenging puzzles that make you smarter. Stressless KenKen, 200 mind-stimulating logic puzzles that make you smarter. And Mix and Match, 160 mind-stimulating logic puzzles that make you smarter. So, and I'm interested in KenKen both for the younger people and also for older people, because everybody deserves to have some kind of puzzle that they love to play. And people are beginning to understand that the more you exercise the mind is like a muscle. It becomes strong, and you can defer the onset of Alzheimer's with when you have a very active mind, and that's good for everybody. So I made this book review here with some free software called Simple Screen Recorder and LibreOffice and Komodo, some webcam software. I have an old Core 2 Duo laptop. It's kind of like a donated laptop. And I connect my laptop to a big monitor. So I just wanted to explain that to people who want to create something similar. I'm recording my audio here with an Olympus digital audio recorder. I love this thing. It's got a little USB connection that plugs right into my computer, and it is WAV files, which are uncompressed. So that's really nice audio. So wouldn't it be interesting, though, to talk to the authors of this book via Skype? It'd be interesting to hear what they have to say. I wonder if that is at all possible, to talk to the authors of this book. Oh, look at this, right here on YouTube. What a coincidence. The authors of the book. And so this is an interview I did with the authors. I used Skype, and I used a program called Call Recorder for Skype. And let's see. So you can ignore me when you're looking at this thing. You can ignore me, the little video down below, because the action's happening over here. And you can also ignore this 36-point blue colored font with nothing to see here. So that is in LibreOffice, and so this is very easy for you to ignore, especially if I start typing. So let's listen over here. I'm going to my speaker's turned on. That's good. I have a separate speaker, and let's listen to this. It is pretty interesting. Shapiro, Tacoma Park, Maryland. I have been reading a really neat book, KenKen Tried and True Tips and Techniques for Beginners. And I am lucky enough to have both authors today joining me. We have Ellie Bruce, who's a high school student, and Josh Rosen, who is an award-winning presidential math science elementary school teacher. So, Ellie, let's start off with you. Where did the idea for this book come from?
So the president of KenKen and my boss, Bob Purer, said that he thought it'd be really interesting if I could write a book that would possibly introduce KenKen. We've had a lot of books that have been geared towards different levels of practicing KenKen, but he felt that there was never one that kind of helped people understand how KenKen worked. and he thought that having it from the student and teacher perspective would be ideal, as we could both understand what it took to learn KenKen and teach KenKen.
And so there was other books that were written that were not for beginners, but this is like a beginner's book. So this is like a gentle ramp, right?
Exactly.
Josh, let's hear from you. You use the KenKen puzzles at your elementary school. Do you use it mostly with the upper students because puzzles are difficult?
I've been using KenKen in my school for 6 or 7 years now, probably, and I've started initially doing it with the older kids, but I've actually found that younger and younger students can do them. In fact, I've done them in as low as grade 1, and it's sort of, I feel like it's just the point where the first graders are starting to do a little bit of deductive reasoning, where they can start to think about ideas like it's not this, so it must be this. That kind of thinking many of the first graders are very excited to solve them, and they're just eager, but they get obviously get more difficult as the grades progress. But I would say I probably use it primarily with grades 1 to 5.
And how do you introduce them in the school year? Is it like a reward activity after they've finished other classroom math?
Teachers use it in a variety of ways. I mean, it's sort of become. I feel like it's sort of become part of the culture of the school. So at the beginning of the year, I have a bulletin board that I put up every year that has puzzles that the students just, they'll come down the hall on their way to gym class, and they'll just grab some puzzles, or their teacher will send them down to grab some. And it's gotten really exciting where students are starting to design their own puzzles. So they'll come to me with a puzzle that they designed from scratch, and they'll ask me to check it to see if it's valid, and it's only valid if it has one unique solution. And so sometimes some students have been able to create some 3x3s, 4x4s from scratch, and then sometimes I'll say, it has multiple solutions, so I'll send them back to the drawing board to try to see if they can repair it. So I feel like it's not like something that I've introduced at this point. It feels like it's just sort of something that's part of the school vibe, which is exciting.
And the neat part is that once you become a fan of puzzles, it's really difficult to have a math phobia. If you love puzzles, it's difficult to have a math phobia.
Yeah, I think it really does speak to a different kind of learning. It's I think there are many students I've seen who don't feel as confident in the regular math curriculum, but given a puzzle, some other way of thinking kind of comes over them, and they're often able to it kind of hooks them in a way which is can get them now to start to see themselves as a more accomplished mathematician, which I hope could translate into other areas as well.
Right. So Josh, I want to hear a little bit about your contest. You have a kind of a friendly contest at the end of the school year, a challenge, right?
Yeah, it's coming up right now in a couple of weeks. It's for grades 2 to 5, and the students have a first round where everyone in their class does a bunch of puzzles, and then the top 5 from each class go to a final round, which I facilitate with. And actually, Ellie has attended in years past, and so has the inventor of KenKen. He's come twice to sort of see how things are going, and it's very exciting to have him there. And he'll sometimes talk to the kids a little bit, or he's actually come on other occasions to teach the kids some puzzles. But so the idea is to have some kind of culminating event to just to kind of get kids excited to think about something that they're sort of working towards. And I really want to send the message that you really just get good at something by working at it and practicing at it. And it's not about, no one I don't think is like naturally gifted at KenKen really. I really feel like it's something that you just chip away over time and develop a knack for. So
interesting. Let's talk with Ellie a little bit about contests. So your first contest was in Princeton, New Jersey. Where was that located in Princeton?
It was at the public library in Princeton.
And you did pretty well, I think. You won that contest, right? Were there
I did.
Youth and adults?
There were both.
There was both, okay. And then you went on to the International KenKen Tournament, and you placed third. Is that right? Is that with people from other countries?
So in, I believe, the 2015 International Student Tournament, I placed third overall. Yeah.
Oh, great. Got it. Interesting. So you both love the puzzles and you're quite accomplished. How did the two of you connect up?
Well, we actually we know each other actually through our synagogue, which is interesting. And that was one connection. And then I remember when Ellie was getting ready to do the internship, I had sort of known Bob prior, and he said, "Oh, there's a student that I know, Ellie Bruce," and I said, "Oh, I know her," and sort of the internship started, and then from there, Bob made the suggestion that we kind of collaborate on this project. So we had kind of known each other, our families had known each other beforehand, so it was a nice kind of connection.
Right.
Yeah, and I'd always known that he'd taught KenKen, and I kind of liked it, before I even started competing, so I always felt somewhat connected to him, even if we didn't know each other quite as well at that point.
Now, Josh, you're an elementary school teacher, and you went to visit Ellie's school. What happened at that visit?
Yeah, so it was very exciting. A student that I had taught in years before in an after-school math club that I run, Math Olympiads, and I do puzzles and other things as well, problems, various different kinds of math activities. But so she, a student who now goes to Ellie's school, contacted me and invited me to come and teach her class some math. So I said, I definitely have to bring puzzles in. So I brought KenKen and one other Japanese puzzle too that I really like, and it was really fun for a lot of reasons, just to have a student who you taught prior kind of remember and be kind of excited about what you'd done and wanted you to share that with her prior. That had never happened before. So that was a huge validation and just very exciting that happened. Right.
And of course, this deductive reasoning that you're introducing with your elementary school students, that's kind of a life skill that if you pursue whatever kind of career, you might be using it in a science career or a business or trying to figure out the difficult problems of the world. But it starts with the foundation in elementary school.
Totally. I mean, the thing about KenKen, which is what makes it such a rich puzzle in my view, is this sort of combination of arithmetic thinking and reasoning. And you're sort of, I feel like, for myself, my brain sort of toggles between them. There are times where I'm doing pure arithmetic, and then other times where I switch and I'm reasoning, and it's sort of this kind of back and forth that happens in KenKen. And it's sort of like I just sort of enjoy the way my mind works when I'm doing that kind of thinking. And I feel like the earlier that you can teach kids that kind of thinking, especially in a way that's fun and enjoyable and helps them with perseverance. I mean, it just has there's so many benefits to it.
Yeah, and I think that if I can add another great thing about KenKen is that there are just so many ways to approach each puzzle. So, for example, when we were working on the book and we were choosing puzzles and then how to explain it, Josh and I came up with different places to start or different methods to solving, and I think that's been something that's really helpful for me throughout my math courses is understanding that the initial thought of how to solve a problem might not be the fastest or best way. And that's something really invaluable about KenKen, I think.
And so for those who might not know, KenKen was invented about 2004. It came to the New York Times, I think, in 2009. And now it's printed in 200 newspapers around the world. So it's becoming a kind of a cultural phenomenon. But it's still, there's many people who haven't heard of KenKen. I work at this public library, and once in a while I'll ask a student who's particularly bright, I say, have you heard of KenKen? And it's so interesting to see their eyes light up when they have. They go, yes!
Yeah, I mean, can I just comment into that? I mean, in my school, it's become to the point where the other day I was teaching one of the secretaries at my school how to do KenKen. There's a 90-year-old woman who volunteers at our school, and she does them. So it's like, to me, it's like one of these activities. It's very rare that you could find people of vastly differing ages participating in the same activity. There's not many things like that. But yeah, you're totally right.
Yeah, and I think if I can add again, another thing that's really interesting about the book is people always come up to me and say, "Oh, am I the right age for this book? Oh, have I done algebra? Is that enough prep?" And I think what's great about KenKen is that it's really fit for all ages and all levels of math, which is just so great to see people being able to collaborate on such a simple puzzle. Yeah.
I can tell you when I saw this book, I said, this is the book for me because I love difficult puzzles, but I need a lot of hand-holding in the beginning. That's just who I am. I need like the coaching. I need some coaching to get into it. And since I don't have, in my own community, I don't have the KenKen support structures that you've been building in your communities. I'm kind of on my own here. It's really useful. It's useful for adults to have a book like this that says, for beginners. You go, I'm going to be able to handle this one. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I also, there's some interesting points around that. It's like when kids are beginning, I want to not be too didactic in my approach because I want students to find their own strategies, right? At the same time, I don't want students guessing randomly either, because if they're guessing randomly, which is an often things that happens at the beginning, is they'll just sort of throw numbers in even if they have no idea what the order is. And so I try to get them to think in some sort of systematic way, but at the same time, I don't want them to think that there's like this prescribed sort of way, because that kind of goes against the whole problem-solving approach anyway. So it's kind of a balance there.
Yeah, and I think that was a big challenge of writing this book, was figuring out how to balance that. And I think that's part of the reason why we tried to have a little bit of a tutorial with oftentimes giving some different approaches and then a lot of practice problems that people could develop their own strategies, yeah.
Now, you invented the problems, right? These were invented?
Oh.
Yeah.
No, we took them from
Selected.
Selected.
Yeah, they were selected.
They were pre-made.
Still impressed. I'm still impressed. It's kind of like a law case where you selected the cases, so interesting. And then there is going to be a large international KenKen tournament this year in New York City. Are you expecting to be attending, either or both of you?
Go ahead, Ellie.
Yeah, I definitely will. There was one this past December as well that we were both at, and that was really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I love participating in these competitions, even though I have no dream of winning them. So I tell that to my students. I say it's just enjoyable to be there, to be concentrating on something with a bunch of other people in this way. And I try to, my own KenKen challenge too, is to try not to make a huge deal out about the competitiveness and like just because you don't win doesn't mean you're not good at the puzzles. So that's an important thing too. But I love kind of just being with all these people who are like-minded.
Right. Yes.
So last year, the winner of last year's was a gentleman who I believe is from Boston, and he completed a 9x9 for the final puzzle, and he didn't put in a single candidate, a single small number. He just deduced. And I was just watching him work, and I was blown away by this because I was amazed by how I was able to keep track of all that information. I went up to him afterwards and said, "So what do you do for work?" He goes, "I'm a data analyst." I said, "No kidding, you're a data analyst. Of course you are." So it was very interesting. Like his work obviously lent itself to being strong at these puzzles.
That is an interesting story.
And that's what's so great about these competitions is you get to meet people from all paths of life. Some people who are in math-related fields and some people who aren't, who really enjoy KenKen. And it's super cool, I think, to get to see all these people. Yeah.
Now, do you think if you develop a real fondness for KenKen, does that open up your mind to the possibilities of finding other puzzles that you might also have the kind of emotional attachment to?
Yeah, I mean, I am mostly into math puzzles. I try to sometimes do crossword puzzles, and I don't have as much necessary interest in them as I do math puzzles, but I do definitely find that becoming good at KenKen over time has kind of trained my mind to think in general, I think more efficiently about other tasks and puzzles in particular.
Right.
Yeah, I know in my experience, I found that the whole process of KenKen, how rewarding it is to kind of, problem solve and look at different approaches, has actually made me really inclined to try other puzzles. So, for example, every Sunday, I always start with the KenKen, of course, but then I'll move on to a bunch of other New York Times puzzles because I know how it stretches my mind and how it helps me think.
Yeah. And you also, Ellie, have a possible plan to do some kind of puzzle group with at your school next year. Is that right?
Yeah, that's in the works. Yeah, exactly.
You plan a puzzle club?
Yeah, it's probably math-based puzzles. Introducing new puzzles. Showing different approaches, things like that. We're in the process of creating.
Okay, neat.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I'm talking with Ellie Bruce and Josh Rosen, high school student and elementary school math teacher, who are the authors of this book. I got to tell you, the two things I really like about this book: very affordable and also short. I mean, the fact that it's short means that it's like non-intimidating. Because if you say here's a beginner's book and it's got 700 pages, that's a little scary. But I think it's a testament to the publisher and to the authors that I think you have a winner for a book here. So I want to thank you for writing it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great. See you then.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good night.
So there we have it. I hope you request that your public library purchase a copy of this book, and your school library, and you might want to purchase a copy and sneak it into the little free library in your neighborhood, or mail it to a friend to sneak into their little free library in their neighborhood. Because it's nice for somebody just to come across something that's so good, so well made. This is Phil Shapiro. See you next time.